Hello and welcome back. My name is Gabby. I'm the English teacher here at Options for Youth Moreno Valley. You should have already finished Units 1 and 2. This is Unit 3, Check for Understanding, Alternative Assessment, or Review. If you haven't finished Performance Tasks 1 and 2, go back and watch those videos, but we're going to go over this one. So for the formatting of this Check for Understanding, it is the same as for Units 1 and 2. First we have unit vocabulary review, next grammar, all of that. So let's look at number 1. Number 1, identify the vocab term that best fits the blanks in the following sentence. After weeks of little sleep and drawn-out battles, the soldiers' faces reflected their heavy dauntless. The desire to rest and return home was prevalent and avarice throughout the entire camp. So that's option A. Option B is after weeks of little sleep and drawn-out battles, the soldiers' faces reflected their heavy clamorous. The desire to rest and return home was prevalent and avarice throughout the entire base camp. Option C is after weeks of little sleep and drawn-out battles, the soldiers' faces reflected their infirmity. The desire to rest and return home was prevalent and palpable throughout the entire base camp. And then option D is after weeks of little sleep and drawn-out battles, the soldiers' faces reflected their heavy sovereign. The desire to rest and return home was prevalent and stealthy throughout the entire base camp. So those are the options. I'm not going to read it like that for everyone, but that's how to kind of check and make sure that words fit in there. For number 2, you identify the vocabulary terms that best fit this following sentence. Due to his insatiable blank for power, Congressman Jamber hired an assassin to take out his competing political opponent. During the White House party, the assassin slipped a potent poison into the target's drink, which had a prolonged and blank effect on the victim's cardiovascular system. So A, sovereign and stealthy, B, avarice and pernicious, C, valor and dauntless, or D, clamorous and antidote. 3, you have to find the terms that go into this sentence. Despite the teacher's resolute and blank appearance, the intense and blank compliments of the students eventually broke him down. No, complaints of the students, sorry. A, dauntless and clamorous, B, valor and stealthy, C, avarice and infirmity, or D, pernicious and palpable. So that's for the vocab. Next is grammar. Grammar, you have to identify an adjective clause in the following sentence. Coach Benjamin, who was famous for his quick temper, began to yell and scream obscenities at the referees during their homecoming football game. So A is began to yell and scream obscenities, B is during the homecoming football game, C is at the referees, or D is who was famous for his quick temper. Remember, adjective clauses I went over at the beginning of Unit 3, so you should have some kind of a bearing on what those are. If not, look it up. 5, identify the target word that the adjective clause is modifying in the following sentence. Coach Benjamin, who was quick for his temper, began to yell and scream obscenities at the referees during the homecoming football game. A, temper, B, homecoming football game, C, Coach Benjamin, D, referees, or E, obscenities. In this one too, since it's part of the first sentence, right, I would also, if those two should match, right, 4 and 5, because one is the target word, and then one is the adjective clause. So if I gave you an example of my best friend who went with me to New York last year bought a car, right? The adjective clause is what it's describing, right? So what's being described there? My best friend who bought a car last year. My best friend is being described, right? How am I describing her? Who went to New York with me last year, right? That's what I said. I remember. So who went with me to New York, right? That is the adjective clause, and then my best friend is the target word. So, because that clause, who went to New York last year, describes my best friend. So it describes that noun. 6, identify the adverb clause in the following sentence. Before the board meeting started, Sandra carefully practiced her sales speech. So you have to figure out if it's Sandra carefully practiced, if it's practiced her sales speech, or was before the board meeting started. And then you have to identify the target word that's being modified, right? So identify the target word that the adverb clause is modifying in the following sentence. Before the board meeting started, Sandra carefully practiced her sales speech. A is board meeting, B is practiced, C is sales speech, D is started, and then E is Sandra. So if I were to give you an example, after going to the store, I put away the groceries, right? So adverb clauses kind of tell like when and where and things like that, things happened. If I were to say that, my adverb clause would be after going grocery shopping, because it tells when, right? And when I did what? Put away, right? So put away is my target, and then after going grocery shopping is my adverb clause. Over here we have our general concept review. So match the description up with the respective drama speech type. So 8 is a speech delivered by a character completely alone in order to reveal their inner thoughts. 9 is a remark made directly to the audience or secretly on the side, but not to others on a stage. And then 10 is a lengthier, uninterrupted speech given by a character to others listening, or to other listening characters. So A is monologue, B is soliloquy, and C is aside. 11. A line from a poem that contains 10 syllables has a pattern of 5 unstressed and then stressed syllabic pairings is known as what? So a pattern of 5, right? For example, from Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, right? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Is it trochaic octameter? Is it anaphysectic hexameter? Is it iambic pentameter? Is it dialectic tetrameter? So you have to try to figure that out. Think about your root words for this one. I think it will really help you. And then next is match the descriptions with the respective unit concept. So there's archetypal, blank verse, assonance, imagery, dramatic irony, and verbal irony. There is a miscellaneous help item that is irony. So if you need help with irony, go there. So 12 is unrhymed iambic pentameter that was created during the English Renaissance to create poetry that imitated natural speech. 13 is the author's use of vivid language in order to recreate a sensory experience, stir feelings, and reinforce important ideas in the reader's mind. 14 is when a certain image, theme, character type, etc. is related to ideas and emotions are shared by people across different cultures. And then 3 is what a character thinks or believes differs from what the audience knows to be true. 16, In the Dark Knight, Harvey Dent starts off as Gotham's shining light as his fearless, righteous, and resolute stance against criminals in court continues to succeed. Unfortunately, Dent becomes broken when his girlfriend dies during a trap set by Joker, the gangs, and some corrupt policemen whom he once trusted. His girlfriend's death reveals to him his hubris, or arrogance, to try to be in control and a decent man in an indecent world, which leads to his transformation into the coin-flipping, murderous Two-Face. Which tragedy element does this example demonstrate? A, tragic impulse, B, dramatic irony, C, tragic flaw, or D, scansion. 17, Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. The tragic figure Willie Lomaine, a down and out of his luck former salesman, had a strained relationship with his son Biff. At the end, Biff made his father realize that Willie's inability to differentiate between his dreams for his son and Billy's dreams was killing Biff inside. Finally, getting a glimpse of reality and rekindling the lost love between them, Willie decides to make a final noble sacrifice for Biff. Willie decides to remove himself from the picture as he knows that he will be unable to let go of his stubborn dreams for Biff. Also unable to financially provide for his family anymore, he mutters quietly to himself as he jumps into his car in the middle of the night that his death will give his family the life insurance money they badly need in order to change their futures. Which tragedy element does this example demonstrate? A. Tragic impulse, B. Dramatic irony, C. Tragic flaw, or D. Scansion. And then 18, the struggle Willie Lomain has between accepting Biff for who he is versus the high dreams, hopes, and ambitions he had for him is an example of what type of conflict. Internal conflict, or what type of conflict? Internal conflict, climax, or external conflict. And that's all there is for Unit 3's Check for Understanding. Unit 4 will be for next time. Let me know if you have any questions or anything specific you need to go over in that. You can always create an extra appointment with me in order to get more help.